Imagine threatening someone with a 10-year ban, only to watch them walk out the door anyway. That is exactly what is happening to Peter V'landys right now, and the NRL is in absolute chaos because of it. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Unpopular Aussie Opinions. If you are new here, smash that subscribe button because we are diving into the stories that everyone is thinking about but nobody wants to say out loud. The Australian Rugby League Commission chairman thought he could bully players into submission with threats of decade-long bans. Instead, star players like Lomax and Papenhuyzen are seriously considering leaving the NRL anyway, and it is becoming one of the most spectacular leadership failures in Australian sport. So let us break down exactly what has happened here, why V'landys' iron fist approach has completely backfired, and what this absolute disaster means for the future of rugby league in Australia. The whole saga started when a new global rugby league competition called a 360 began making waves. Now, for those who have not been following along, a 360 is positioning itself as a rival to the NRL, offering players lucrative contracts and the chance to compete on a global stage. Think of it like what LIV Golf did to the PGA Tour, but for rugby league. Now, you would think the NRL's response would be strategic, measured, maybe even a bit clever. You would think they would look at what is making a 360 attractive to players and address those concerns. Better pay, better conditions, better opportunities. That would be the smart play, right? But no. Instead, Peter V'landys came out swinging with what can only be described as the nuclear option. He threatened any player or agent who even negotiated with a 360 with a 10-year ban from the NRL. 10 years. That is not just career-ending, that is career-destroying. That is telling a 25-year-old player that they will be 35 before they can even think about coming back. Now, let us be clear about something. V'landys probably thought this threat would work. He probably thought that the fear of being locked out of the NRL for an entire decade would be enough to keep players in line. It is the classic dictator playbook, is it not? Rule through fear and intimidation rather than actual leadership. But here is the problem. When you threaten people with the most extreme punishment imaginable, you better make sure they are actually afraid of it. And clearly, these players are not. Lomax, one of the most talented backs in the competition, has already made the jump. Papenhuyzen, one of the most electrifying fullbacks in the game, is reportedly considering his options. These are not fringe players looking for a payday before they retire. These are genuine stars in their prime who are looking at V'landys' threats and saying, "Yeah, no thanks mate." And that should terrify the NRL. Because if your best players are willing to walk away despite facing a 10-year ban, what does that say about the state of your competition? What does that say about how players feel they are being treated? The Rugby League Players Association certainly has not been quiet about this. They have come out swinging against V'landys' approach, and rightfully so. Because at the end of the day, these are workers in a professional industry. They have every right to explore their options, to negotiate with other employers, to make the best decisions for their careers and their families. But V'landys wants to treat them like indentured servants. He wants to lock them into the NRL system and punish them severely if they even dare to look elsewhere. That is not leadership. That is control. And there is a massive difference between the two. Now, let us talk about why this approach was always doomed to fail. First, it shows a complete lack of understanding about what motivates modern athletes. Players today are not just looking at the paycheck, although that certainly matters. They are looking at career opportunities, at global exposure, at the chance to be part of something new and exciting. A 360 is offering all of that. They are offering competitive salaries, the opportunity to play in different countries, and the chance to be pioneers in a new competition. For a lot of players, especially those who might feel undervalued or underappreciated in the NRL, that is an incredibly attractive proposition. So when V'landys comes along and says, if you even talk to them, you are banned for 10 years, what message does that send? It sends the message that the NRL knows it cannot compete on merit alone. It sends the message that instead of making the NRL a better place to play, they would rather just threaten anyone who considers leaving. And here is the thing that really gets me. V'landys has been in charge during some genuinely difficult times for rugby league. He navigated the competition through COVID-19, which was no small feat. He has pushed for expansion, including the Las Vegas opener and the Papua New Guinea team. Some of these decisions have been controversial, but at least they showed ambition. But this 360 response shows the exact opposite. It shows fear. It shows a leader who has run out of ideas and is resorting to threats because he does not know what else to do. And the worst part? It is not even working. That is the truly embarrassing bit. If you are going to go the authoritarian route, if you are going to threaten players with career-ending bans, at the very least it should actually work. But it is not. Players are leaving anyway. Agents are still negotiating. The threats are hollow, and everyone knows it. So what happens now? Well, V'landys has painted himself into a corner. If he does not follow through on these ban threats, he looks weak and his word means nothing. But if he does follow through and actually bans players like Lomax for 10 years, he risks a massive legal battle and potentially losing even more players who see how the NRL treats those who leave. The Players Association will not sit idly by if the NRL starts handing out decade-long bans. There will be legal challenges. There will be questions about restraint of trade. There will be a fight, and it is a fight that could get very ugly very quickly. And all of this could have been avoided if V'landys had taken a different approach from the start. Instead of threatening players, why not sit down with them and ask what would make them want to stay? Why not improve conditions, increase pay, create better opportunities? Why not make the NRL so attractive that players would not want to leave? But that requires actual leadership. That requires listening, adapting, and being willing to change. And based on what we have seen, those do not seem to be skills that V'landys possesses. Look, I understand that no sporting administrator wants to see a rival competition poaching their players. That is a legitimate concern. But the way you handle that concern says everything about your leadership style. And V'landys has chosen intimidation over innovation, threats over solutions. The reality is that professional sport is a business. Players are employees. And in any healthy business, employees have the right to explore other opportunities. You keep your best employees by creating a great workplace, not by threatening them if they look elsewhere. Right now, the NRL is learning a very expensive lesson about what happens when you lead through fear instead of respect. Players are walking away despite the threats. The competition is facing a genuine crisis. And V'landys, the man who was supposed to be the tough leader who could handle anything, is watching his strategy crumble in real time. So there you have it. Peter V'landys threatened players with 10-year bans if they even talk to a 360. And those players are leaving anyway. It is a spectacular failure of leadership, and it is happening right in front of our eyes. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Unpopular Aussie Opinions for more takes that cut through the rubbish. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Should V'landys resign? Can the NRL recover from this? I want to hear your thoughts. Until next time, this has been Unpopular Aussie Opinions, and remember, sometimes the most unpopular opinion is just the truth that nobody wants to hear.